Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Soulful Abundance Festival. I'm your host, Elise Preston, founder of Be More Connected, and today I am so thrilled to be here with speaker, storyteller, and spiritual coach for women, Gigi Bisong. Welcome, Gigi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, beautiful souls who are tuning in.
Yes, we're so grateful to have you here with us today. And Gigi is the founder of the Embodied Ally Program, which merges spirituality, embodied practice, and ancestral healing with allyship. She is also a spiritual teacher, corporate and motivational speaker and storyteller, and her speaking engagements transform into ceremonies that join beings in the audience to participate in collective healing of oppression, unworthiness, and the pain of not being in one's voice. She believes that speaking is her art, and her work is all about creating spaces for women to rise above social conditioning so they can embody their divine selves and hold more light energy. She believes there's power in community, and so her work embraces collective healing and deep community work because the world is in dire need of sovereign women who are devoted to their visions. Ooh, what a gorgeous bio. And so I would love if we could start off actually by having you introduce yourself to our audience in a little bit of a deeper way and sharing a bit about your own journey of healing and how you found your way to the work that you're doing in the world today.
Thank you. And as you were reading that bio, I was like, oh yeah, I like this.
Yes.
But yeah, it's such a big question. And I did this one workshop one time and they had brought this little phrase of like short answer, medium answer, or long answer. So I'm going to obviously do the short answer to this beautiful question. And for me, it started when I was like so young, like, which I'm sure so many people tuning in are going to be like, yes, that was me.
I relate.
But I remember being like 4 years old, or I was super young before going to school. And I was like, what is happening here? Like this place that we called like, you know, earth, home, like what is going on? Like I didn't understand how people were relating with each other. Yeah. And I didn't feel the kindness, the sincerity, the honoring of the uniqueness of each individual. Like there was this energy that I felt as like everyone wanted everyone to be this model, this like ideal version that was unattainable because it wasn't tapping into any sort of truth. And everyone was hiding so many parts of them so they could be perceived as this ideal version. And people were not being kind to each other. And yet they're supposed to be like, I'm your friend. I just was really confused. I was like, what is happening? And I was like, this isn't my home. Like I'm waiting for my ship, my people, they're coming to pick me up.
Come get me.
And I realized, okay, no one's coming for you, honey. This is where you are. And so at that point, I asked myself a question. I was like, this is literally a question I asked myself as a kid. I said, are you going to choose to follow what you see everybody else doing so you can be in community so you don't be alone? Or are you going to trust what's right here and follow this? And it was a hard question and it was a hard decision, but I chose to figure out to follow the crowd. Like that was I had a clear intention that that's what I was going to do because I did not want, I knew if I followed what's here, I would probably be isolated and felt even more abandoned than I already did. So I spent most of my childhood trying to figure out, you know, like it felt like everybody was reading a book on like how to be a human. And like, I didn't get the library was out of books. And so I didn't have it. But when I got like to be like six years old or so, I had an amazing like kindergarten teacher. And I was like, I want to be like Chuck. Like Chuck is awesome. Like I want to be a teacher when I grow up. But then I got to be a little bit older, like 10. And then I looked at adults and I was like, there's something off. You know, like we teach children to go to school so they can be successful grownups. But I was like, I look at grownups, I look in their eyes, and a lot of them are nice. Like they'll say good morning, they ask how you're doing, how's school, you know, they have homes or houses or apartments, cars, or they take the bus, like they figure it out. But there's something missing when I look in their eyes. Like I didn't obviously know how to articulate it then, but I was like, I don't really want to be them, you know? And so I said, then there's something missing. that we're not teaching kids. And I said, that's what I want to teach people, is that missing thing. And so
Beautiful.
it was so profound that that came to me at such a young age, but I didn't know what that missing piece was. So the rest
Right.
of my life kind of became this like exploration of like, what is that? So that's really kind of where it started. And then I was just like eyes wide open, you know, and just soaking up everything to figure out what that piece was.
Right. Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your story and also being able to really speak to this deep wisdom that has always lived within you. Because I think that that is something that so many folks who identify as leaders and healers and visionaries, as you shared, like so many folks in this audience can likely relate to. And it is challenging when we, come up against that some of these like deep decisions like you described. Am I going to choose my soul self, or am I going to choose connection and belonging? And that is a tough decision to have to make, especially as like such a little one. But I love that you described your journey as being one where you were identifying that there is something missing. There's some missing piece. And so you went on this journey of being able to deeply explore what that was and how you could be a teacher and a guide and support people with reconnecting and remembering what that missing piece was. And so I'd love to be able to explore with you a bit about your beautiful program, the Embodied Ally Mentorship, and would love to know about just the origin story, the inspiration for this program, and the work that you're doing with the current members of this group.
Yes, such a beautiful creation that came, and it really kind of signifies that like little girl in me that had that choice of, do I follow what's in here or do I follow what's out there? And I actually had a dream about 6 years ago. This is way before even Embodied Ally came through me. But I remember praying. I did a deep prayer before I went to sleep, and I was starting my business. So it was about like 8 years ago when I went full time as like a speaker and coach. And I asked, like, what should I do? Like, should I actually just do this full on? I'm so confused. And I said, please give me an answer in my dream. And so I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I vividly remember the dream. And the dream was I was headed to Target, and I had all these like kids with me. And I have a son now. He's 9, or not now, but my son is 19. But at the time, he was much younger. And so at that point, I always had him, his friends, his cousins with me doing stuff. So it made sense that in my dream, I had all these like little people that were kind of like hanging out and looking up. And we're just headed to Target, like we we're at Target a lot.
Yeah.
And we were walking, and in the dream, you had to walk up the stairs. Yeah. And then you get to the peak, and then you go down into the valley, and you go through the valley, and then that's how you get to Target. Okay. So, and the stairway was like a one-way. So you should only be walking up, no one should be walking down. So we're walking up, and I'm noticing all these people are coming down. And I'm like, what's going on? It's almost like when someone's like driving on the wrong side of the road, or like, what are you doing? And so I had that energy in the dream of like, hey, what are you guys doing?
What's going on?
One way. But then as I got up closer to the top, I realized something must be in the valley. People must have intended to walk up, and they looked in the valley, now they're walking down. Right. And I actually ran into an old friend that I respect so much. And I was like, Olivia, oh my God, it's Olivia. She's even walking down. And I asked her what's going on, and she was too in fear, and she just kept walking. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So we went to the peak, and we looked over into the valley, and it was dark and like foggy. We couldn't see. And I was like, people must be afraid of what's under the fog. They must assume like, I don't know if I trust that. I go, but Olivia even walked down. And I was like, what should we do? And so we decided, everyone else is walking down, let's just walk down. So we walked down the stairwell, and the stairs were actually getting shorter, like the steps. And my feet weren't like safely being able to plant on them. So I literally in my dream felt like I was gonna like fall over. And it was a lot of like fear and like, oh my God, are we gonna die? But we made it down, and then we got to Target the long way. Anyways, I woke up, and I was like, I prayed again, like, please give me clarity on what this means. And I trusted that it would come. And throughout my day, I went into the closet, I'm looking at these old notes, And I heard a clear voice that said, that's the interpretation of your dream right there. And so I looked at what was written, and it was like a quote, and basically was talking about most people are too afraid to go through the unknown. And so don't follow them. And you might think that what's in the unknown is really going to be scary and is going to like shake you, but like actually going to the safety and the comfort is more dangerous. And as like in the dream, I almost fell down the stairs, right? That was like a clear danger. Following even this like good friend of mine, like even Olivia didn't go through the valley. Like I'm gonna follow Olivia. And so in that moment, I was like, trust, right here. Yeah. And so with the Embodied Ally program, that came through a time after watching a movie called Black Klansman. And that movie kind of took me in a 3-month period of really deeply connecting with my ancestors. I didn't plan this. It just kind of took over. It happened to me, you know, and I didn't want it to, because it brought me into a place of unknown, into a place of where I was afraid because it was out of my comfort bubble. And I kept hearing this voice again that said, be with us. And so it was actually like I was tapping into different energies, different experiences of Black women in their bodies in this lifetime. Various experiences, like from this current, you know, time frame, and also my ancestors. And so I was learning they taught me how to be with them, sit with them, dance with them, write poetry with them. So I learned so much about this vast experience of what it means to be a Black woman, and these vast experience of the wounding of racism and what it does to the spirit and to the body. And so after doing that, I was afraid, you know, went back to the comfort bubble. But it was a business coach of mine, like 2 years later, I think, that we were talking, and she was like, whoa, that came to you. We must go forward. And so that's when I created a summit called the Adore, Don't Ignore Black Women Summit. And I was supposed to launch it before January 2020, but my comfort bubble, fear came up. And so I kept pushing it off. And then finally I launched in June of 2020. And, you know, a lot of events were happening, and a lot of pain, and a lot of revealing of the pain that has already been existing in our bodies and on this planet for so long, but has been revealed for all to see, of no more being able to like sweep it under the rug. And so that's when my summit came out. And I had intended for more Black women to be a part of the summit, but it was a lot of white women that were vocal and that were there. And they had asked what's next. And that's when I prayed, and it came through me, the Embodied Ally Program. So, which was really about not going down the stairwell, but going through the valley and through that fog. And so.
So powerful. And I love that you welcomed us into your dreams and the spaces, you know, those liminal spaces where our spirit, our ancestors are able to powerfully communicate with us, and how you listened in, how you answered the call, because oftentimes we can be receiving, right? Or having messages that are trying to reach us, but if we aren't slowing down, if we aren't tuning in, if we aren't available, that wisdom isn't able to be integrated or like channeled through us. So inspiring to just hear your story and, you know, give a glimpse into what's possible when we're available for those messages. And I'd love to be able to hear a bit more as well about the program itself and what you all have been diving into over the past, I guess it's been about 8 months. I'm not actually sure when it kicked off, but I know the summit was a year ago, right? That was last June. Yeah. So it's been, wow, a whole year since that expansive event.
Yeah, and it started off as a workshop, like a 4-week workshop. We did like a few of those, and now it's a membership. It launched into a membership. And so what we've been doing is really merging the inner relationship with racism and the outer relationship. And so it's bridging and the doing with the being. And so a lot of what this creation, or what came to me when I kind of fell to my knees last year around this time frame, and I was like, do I have anything to offer in this, you know? And then what clearly came through to me was that there was this energy during that time, this like collective energy of these cries that were saying, what else can we do? Like we're tired and we don't know what to do, but we're ready to do something. It was like this energy of that, like this
Right.
readiness to take a new pathway, or the readiness to
Yes.
get off of this road that we thought that this road was the road to salvation or freedom or unity. And it's like, no, where's the other road? And so it's that
Right.
same energy of that dream of like, you know, everyone followed each other down the stairs, and the stairs was not leading you to Target. You know, it was through the fog, but people were so
Yes.
afraid of the fog that they couldn't go through there. And so this like coming through to me from the Embodied Ally Program was like, people need to go through the fog.
Right.
And the reason, and them not going through the fog is actually them not actually getting to that space of unity that they're so wishing that they had. And so they need people, they need light beings, they need space holders, they need individuals that can come and to guide them through the fog. And so for me, I knew that wasn't just myself. There was this collective energy also there, and I was feeling of like a coming togetherness. And so in my program, I do bring in different facilitators and teachers that are coming in with their own wisdoms, because it's not that any single one of us has the answer. It's that we all have seeds of this light consciousness in us that has pieces of the answer. And it's only when we come together in deep community when we can actually create that new pathway that people are so screaming for and crying for right now. And so it's when we really bring in all those different seeds, when we come together and we can create this new pathway, that we are actually at a time, space, energetically, that we actually can go on this new timeline for this type of healing and this type of unity. Like we are ready for that. And so that's what I was hearing, that deep cry of like, we are ready. Where do we go? Like, lead us to the way. And it takes all of us coming together. And also the thing that was coming through to me was that there's a lot of energies in terms of like shame, guilt, pain, sadness, judgment, all of these energies that have not actually been fully witnessed. There hasn't been a relationship to them. So they've been fragmented and they've been like kind of brushed under the rug, right? And so when we don't have a relationship with something, what happens when there's a dysfunctional relationship? You know, there becomes turmoil, there becomes war. And so we have individually have had those relationships within ourselves individually, within our own personal communities, like our own families, and then also within our greater communities, like where we live, maybe how we identify ourselves, like what race we identify as. There's been these dysfunctions within that hasn't been looked at or addressed, witnessed, it hasn't been healed, it hasn't been loved on, that they haven't received a microphone. And so imagine like in a family, if you are, you know, stuffing like your child because, you know, they broke a plate or they did something that you didn't approve of, and you put them in their room for 10 years, that type of abuse, that type of dysfunction. When you open the door, what do you think is going to happen to that child? You think that child's going to sit and be obedient and be loving to you? That child is going to go, you know, into a state of dysfunction because of what the dysfunction that has been placed on them, that type of relationship. And so that's exactly what's happening with us. And so a lot of those energies, those pains that have been stuffed into the closet have not had relationship. And what I mean by that, when we have relationship, we are looking at it, we are facing it, we are seeing it, we are hearing it. You know, we are moving it through the dysfunctions that have happened. You know, if that happened with that child by, you know, punishing a child and putting them locked away for years, you know, what would happen? We would need to put that child in some type of therapy and some type of healing where they really get to move through that trauma. You know, we don't expect it to just be gone. And so there's a lot of trauma, a lot of racial trauma that we're all experiencing. And so in the program, we're having a different relationship with those energies, the energies that have been shoved under the rug for so long, energies that our ancestors, you know, weren't able to, didn't know that they had the ability to even deal with, like we're being able to deal with them. And for the ones that feel called to show up, you are a part of that healing. Like your ancestors are whispering in your ear, whether you hear them or not. And they're saying, you're the one, you're one of the ones, right? And so that's kind of the collective energy that we're doing in the program, or those who have heard the whisper in one way or another.
Yes. Ooh, and Gigi, Truly, speaking is an art for you. I'm like really just drinking in everything that you're sharing. And this is so, so, so powerful. I love so much of what you shared about just the beautiful way that your membership is structured in terms of being able to really just be a container for holding space and welcoming in different leaders, guides, coaches, healers to be able to provide their own seeds of consciousness around how we can navigate our way through this unknown, this fog, this territory that, I mean, who, as you described, like there is so much shame, pain, just dysfunction in how we relate to each other around these concepts of race. And if we aren't able to get in there, like really have the deep, nuanced, complex, challenging conversations with ourselves and with each other, there's no way for us to be able to address these things and to heal. And so, yeah, just how powerful, as you were describing, like how do we have a different relationship with racial healing? How do we have a different relationship with these concepts that have been so adamantly, aggressively like suppressed and denied and pushed away for centuries? And this is deep work that requires all of us, right? Requires all of us to be engaged in and to be a part of in our own lives. And so, yes, I am just so inspired and so in awe of what you have created and what you're continuing to grow and expand. And I love the beautiful ways that you have been speaking to your connection with your ancestors informing your work, and would love to learn a little bit more about how your relationship with your ancestors has been supporting you during this time.
Yeah, it's like I've been really getting into this whole, like, obviously I kind of shared that I'm a mother. My son's 19 now, but, and I do a lot of work with women. And for women, especially, it's like, even if you have children, don't plan to ever, it doesn't matter. It's like your body was created to mother, to nurture. There's just like this innate knowing in your body of how to do that. And so I think that really connects to the wisdom of Mother Earth, and also the wisdom of our ancestors and how our ancestors relate to us. And we can be so far removed from that innate ability to tap in. As a mother who becomes pregnant, it's not like she has to like there are books out there, right, that teach you how to be a mother, or how to, birth a baby. But before books were written, how did this happen? There's like, your body knows what to do. Your body knows, even if you just were like, oh, I'm not pregnant. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going through labor. Like, how did this happen? It's like, your body knows what to do. And it's just like, if you actually sit and be with the body will tell you so much. And the same is with our ancestors. If we sit and we listen, our ancestors will show up and share with us so much. And I believe that we can have a relationship with you can call like your shadow, the insecurities, maybe the pain, the trauma. We can have a relationship with the shadows of our ancestors. We can also have a relationship with the light of our ancestors, like our well ancestors. And I think it's important to have a relationship with both, at least for me personally, because I have both in me. I have my shadows and I have my light. And a lot of my insecurities, the things that keep, I look at it like a bubble, like we have our comfort bubble. And I know many of us who are listening in on this call, maybe compared to a lot of people in our family, or a lot of maybe our old friends, like if we go back, like our high school friends or something, we can see like, oh, wow, we feel like we do so much. Like we kind of step way out of our comfort zone compared to most people. But even though we all still have our comfort bubble, and we can play within that bubble, when we're on maybe at our lower end or more shadowy kind of side, we're kind of at that end of the bubble. And when we're feeling expansive and abundant and just full, we kind of go up here, but we play in that like comfort bubble, and like maybe a lot of times we're right here. So when we get there, we're like, oh, we're really doing it. But I feel like our ancestors of the light have the ability for us to pierce through that bubble, and that's where they're, for honestly, most of us, those who are on this call, that's where they're really wanting us to play in, is right here. And I remember clearly having a vision that came through when I was drumming. So it was like in this past January during the White House attacks. And I went into my normal response when I'm feeling like at this low end of my bubble is I go into like, I'm freeze. I freeze. I'm just like, I want to like, I'm an introvert, and so I can normally just be like, leave me alone. I want to just hide under the blankets and like away from the world, like back to my 8-year-old self. And I'm just like, this is too crazy. What is this place? And that's what I was feeling. I wanted to just like retreat. And then my friend texted me, and one of our native friends made us this beautiful drum. And she dreams before she makes her drum. And so she paints whatever came through the dream for you specifically. And for my drum, she created this beautiful tree, and it was roots. And like, I have been like literally like feeling this energy of getting rooted, like to the nth degree, So I'm like, okay, this definitely makes sense for me. And so I was like, oh, she wants us to drum. I'm like, okay. So I went into drum and I was praying and I was like chanting. And then after doing that for a few minutes, it's like all of a sudden that fearful 8-year-old in me has transformed into this like powerful space holder. And as I'm holding this energy, I see this vision of these women who are in the forest. So they are out of the city. They're out of the like populated area, that's dense and that has a lot of sheep mentality. No, they're in the forest. They're one with nature. And if you look at their eyes are, they're not brown, they're not black, they're not blue, they're not gray, they're like yellow. They're yellow eyes, and they're piercing eyes. And these are women, all different shades, colors, sizes, everything, but they all have the same eyes. And their eyes can see through darkness. Wow. And they were running through this forest like wild women. I mean, they were going crazy. They were all over the place. Like from one moment, one's here, then she's like up in the tree. And so I didn't hear words from them, but I heard like energy. And the energy that they were bringing to me was that it's time to get wild. Okay. It's not just the wildness and unpredictability is not just meant for those that are trying to keep us in manipulation, trying to manipulate us, or trying to keep us in darkness. We need to we need to be unpredictable. Like we do, so that's that energy of us piercing through that freaking bubble. Like, nope, honey, that's not it right there.
That's not it.
Do that. And it's like, you have the ability to get there. And I think our ancestors of the light, and our ancestors of the shadow, like understanding what that is and understanding where that comes from. Because I've deeply have been connected to the pain that a lot of my ancestors have felt with like, I don't speak, you're going to die,
Right.
And me being able to connect so deeply with them, I have a different relationship with my pain now. I don't allow it to take over me. Like I actually speak with it. We have a relationship. And so I think relating with our ancestors, they teach us to have deep relationship with all parts of us, and it's only through relationship that we can understand and that we can move through it. We met a new partner, what would we do? We wouldn't just like, okay, like move in together and not like understand, not relate, not communicate, not connect. We would deeply connect with them. And so I think the same is true with our ancestors. So much wisdom can come through that. And they can allow us to really understand what's beyond that comfort bubble and how to get there.
Wow. Loving this. Relating with our ancestors allows us to have deeper understanding of all parts of ourselves. And I am very new to exploring ancestral healing, but it's been having a really profound impact on me. And so much of what you shared, like I was just getting some truth bumps and like some tingles as you were speaking, because I had an Akashic Records reading, and some of my ancestors were communicating with me like through that space. And one of the powerful energies that it was shared that I'm like supposed to be healing for myself and like for my lineage in this lifetime is an energy around silence and obedience. And so the medicine for that is like embodying more wildness and more
Yes.
freedom and more liberation. And so as you were describing that beautiful like vision of the women being wild and free and running through the woods, I was like, ooh, that just like really resonates with me. And the beautiful way that you were describing this comfort bubble that we so often like live within, and how our wise and well ancestors want to support us, like piercing through that and being able to live and explore new and more expanded ways of being, just feels so impactful. But I do love the way that you talked about that importance, or I mean, we all get to explore our relationship with our ancestors and how it resonates for us in our own unique way. But to me, it does feel really powerful to be connecting and relating to our like light side of ancestors and also the shadow side as well. And I feel like that's not talked about as much. It's what I have been, hearing, seeing, picking up on in this space, in spiritual space, is a lot of like only connecting with and only welcoming in like wise and well ancestors. But I think that is really impactful to find like what are still like the healthy, accessible ways that we can communicate with, relate with, maybe bring in some of the healing or the information that can be transformational or available to us from kind of the shadow side, the pain that's been experienced as well. So thank you so much for sharing. And yes, so now I'd love to kind of switch gears a little bit and begin to explore with you a bit about your experience as an entrepreneur and how your relationship with abundance has evolved since stepping into entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I resonate. Did you say silence? Was that the energy that yeah. So I can
silence
really
and obedience.
Obedience. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can resonate with the energy of silence, or of, kind of that energy of being obedient to and being very like safe,
Yes.
And so that has been one of my challenges as an entrepreneur, as a woman, as, just moving through my own journey, my spiritual journey, is like understanding that and moving through it and having a relationship with that. Cause that's in my comfort bubble, and
For
it's
sure.
like just understanding that bubble. And so that has been a challenge with me. And so obviously it's just been such a journey. And at first it was more just like, can I do this? Was like the first thing as an entrepreneur, was like, do I have the ability to even go there? And so I had to really connect, or I felt like I had to really connect with my power, my confidence, my strength. That was first what I needed to do to even be able to tap into my possibility. And so that's when I first had that dream, of the stairs. Yeah. And so that gave me the courage and the inner power to just do it. And so then I quit my job at the time and I went full on. And I actually did an abundance challenge. It was a 100-day challenge. And I'm kind of a weird person since I was little, in that like I do challenge myself. As a kid, I was super shy, like terrified to talk to anybody new. Like literally, I would just be silent, I didn't even know how to say hi or like what to do, And I think there was a part of me that knew like, oh, one day you're going to be on the Be Connected Summit. So you need to like figure this out. And so I would like challenge myself, and I would like sign myself up at like 8, 9 years old to camps for like the summer, over like 2-week long camps with girls that I don't know. So that way I was forced to kind of move through my social anxiety. And so anyhow, I'm bringing that up because as an entrepreneur, I have like, when I read a powerful spiritual book, I actually am like, okay, well, I'm gonna try this on. They say to do this, and this will help, like I'm gonna do that. And so one of the things I read was a 100-day challenge of spending 100 days in abundance. And so I was like, I'm not just going to read about it and be like, oh, that sounds cool. I'm like, I'm going to do it. And so I did it for 100 days. So I was full on gratitude, had mantras of abundance. I walked around saying like, money's attracted to me and it cannot wait to find me, or money finds me in the most creative and juicy ways. And I would just giggle afterwards. And, you know what I mean? I would just be like super tickled by this. And literally not even 6 weeks down from doing the abundance challenge, I over doubled my income.
Whoa.
You know, and it lasted. It wasn't just like that 1 month. It lasted for like the whole time I was in that space of my business. And so I was like, whoa, I was like, I figured out like how to create abundance. And so that was a huge thing for me of just like getting to that point of like possibility. Right now with my business, I have been more tapping into how to pierce through that comfort bubble. You know, and so it has been a lot more shadow stuff. So not just being in this expansive energy, but also being like really feeling some heavy stuff, and learning how to move through that and relate to that in like a healthier, more loving way. And it doesn't always look loving, because sometimes it just looks like, you know, a shit show or something, but like I'm with it and I'm feeling it, you know. I'm birthing. I know, like I go into this vision of like, I'm birthing something, and birth doesn't always look, you know, like this glorious experience. Some people can't handle it. Like when I gave birth to my son, many people had to leave the room because, you know, they were like, I can't handle this.
It's a lot.
And that's going to happen in our experience of life. And some people aren't going to be able to handle what comes through. And we still, I think it's important to really fully feel. And so that's kind of where I am in now, is like experiencing what it looks like for Gigi to like pierce through this bubble. I will say one last quick thing here, that hopefully might help others who also have that energy in them of being silent or being quiet, you know, is I was doing a writing exercise in the morning, kind of like morning pages. And one of my ancestors came and greeted me while I was doing this writing. And the thing that she shared was she was around during like slavery. And she told me that she had the fire in her during that time, and that people would beat her, they would rape her, they would slice her throat with their words, and they would silence her. But no matter what they did to her body, they could never touch her spirit. Her spirit had fire. And she told me, she was like, you have that same fire, sister. And she was like, speaking of herself, she goes, back then, I did not dare let that fire out. Because if I let my fire out, it would have burned down my people. It would have burned down my community. So I had to keep it contained. But she said, you also keep your fire pretty contained too. And she said, but you're standing on different soil, sister. You can let your fire go. And she's like, let that fire go. And she said, burn this bitch down. and then she went on to say what that means. And she said that fire that you're burning down all that has been standing for centuries that no longer needs to be here. And your fire actually is going to become a light for those that are looking for safety and looking for community, because they're going to see that light and they're going to know where to head. But without your fire, they're not going to know where they're supposed to go. You know, and so that message was for me, and it was for so many others, and for women especially, who also have that silence in them, is that we can afford to let that fire go. And so that's kind of the space I'm in right now of my entrepreneurship, my business, and it's challenging. It's not easy. And as I told one of my friends, because she was like, oh my gosh, I feel so insecure, you know, like, how do you do it? And like, are you kidding me? Like, I feel insecurities all the time.
Oh yeah, me too.
Like, it pops up all the time. And I think we just need to like stop thinking it's not going to be there, and just know that it's going to show up. Right. You know, I think when we start being like, why is it here? Like, how come I'm not like this? I'm like, I have a belief that it's not about it needing to be gone. It's us learning how to relate to it. And so I relate to it in a whole different way than I used to. And I have so many tools on how to do that now, which have been really powerful. And the tools have came to me when I've silenced and I've listened, you know, and I'm hearing the voices through my writing, like when she said, burn this bitch down, you know what I mean? It's like, I can't get there if I'm so like reading everybody else's blogs, or like, and not that that's important, but it's like we need less sheep. It's like, where's that, like that unique message medicine that you're holding inside of you can only be come through creativity, through silence, through art, through nature. So it's less from consuming and more about creating.
Yes. Oh my goodness. This is so, so, so beautiful. And that message that was shared from your ancestor really resonated with me as well. And I love the way that you described, you know, this fire, right? This powerful element. It can be used for destruction, right? Like just destruction of burning things down, burning things away that are harmful, that should no longer stand. But it can also be really generative and really productive too, in the way that you like describing that it gets to be this light for those who are looking for guidance, who are looking for safety. And so I just like love the multidimensionality of that, and yeah, just sitting with that, and how powerful that transmission and that message was. And really appreciate you for sharing that. And I think too, it's really so, it feels so important to re-emphasize this point that you made about, you know, fear, doubt, insecurity. These aren't things that are ever going to go away necessarily. And so it's about finding the healthy ways for us to be able to relate to them and move through them. Oh, so powerful. And so I feel like this leads us pretty nicely into the question that I love to ask all of our guests, which is, what does soulful abundance mean to you?
Soulful abundance. Yeah, soulful abundance means this like openness. I'm just like seeing this like, or I'm actually energetically feeling this like open energy of really getting in touch with the abundance that's all around us at all times. And it's not even related to, I mean, it definitely can be related to the abundance of friends and love and money, you know, and beauty that's around us. But it's even beyond the words and the ideas that we have of things that we might associate with like success or good, but it's more an energy of just like this potentiality that we can energetically feel, you know, that's really coming from our soul. And so it's almost getting the, you know, if you live in America and you speak English, it's like, you know, that's my language, you know, so it's almost like getting all of the English words out of the way and actually getting into that space of abundance. And I actually do tap into that a lot, like when I'm doing my morning walks. And that's a way that I move through some of my energetic blocks that keep me in that bubble, is I will just tap into that feeling of abundance and just feel that. And so it's more, it's like removing all of the ideas of what abundance even means and just like in saturating ourselves into that energy. And that's the soulful abundance. And then I believe that creates like an energetic experience for all those that you're around, for all those that you connect with, like they can feel that. It's like when they can look into your eyes. It's like that 8-year-old me when I was like, I'm looking at adults in their eyes and like, I don't want to be them.
This ain't it.
There's something missing there. And I think it's like that soulful abundance is missing. It's like that, that energy that taps beneath all of the personalities and constructs, you know, that we have created, and really gets to that soul, that truthful piece that we all have. And that's what really creates the abundance, you know, that we're seeking in terms of like abundance of business opportunities, abundance of this. It's really this being able to hold this energy of magnificence that we all hold.
So, so beautiful. And so I know that you have a free gift that you've shared with our audience, and would love if you could share a bit about that now.
Yeah, so anyone listening in who is like curious or might be feeling that silence within them, or just looking for more creative, expansive ways on deepening their relationship with themselves, with their ancestors, with their visions, with their creative gifts, I'm doing a free 1-hour session. And what we're going to do during that time is we're really going to dive into what area you're really wanting to expand on and really kind of cultivate this new relationship. with your life, with your purpose, with your vision. It's very experiential, you know, so it's really tapping into the experience. And it's not about me giving you anything. It's about you really actually learning how to listen to that deep wisdom in you, because you are full of it, you know. It's like I have ideas of what I can share with you, but they're like, they're specs compared to like what's inside of you, because obviously our journeys and our experiences and what's true for you in this moment is going to be so different from what's true for me, right? And so it's more about having and learning how to relate to all of you, which is so beautiful. So you can hear what's next and where it wants to take you. So we'll go through some different journeys and exercises. So I will lay a foundation, a framework, but then I'm going to teach you exactly how to build on that relationship with yourself, so you know how to continue that when we're done working with one another.
Ooh, so generous, and so grateful for you sharing that with our audience, and would love if you could also share the other ways that folks can be connected with you, learn from you, work with you. What does that look like?
Yeah, so right now I'm on Instagram. That's my social media of choice. So you can find me at Gigi, Gigi_Bisong. So that's Bisong. And then my email is Gigi@litbymiracles. So LIT, miracles with an S.com. And also my website is gigibisong.com. And so the ways that you can work with me right now is I do one-on-one coaching. If you want to experience that, the free gift is a great way to explore what that looks like. And then also the Embodied Ally Program for women who identify as being white women and who feel called to be a part of removing racism out of their bodies, their families, their communities, and the world.
Yes. Well, Gigi, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your powerful wisdom, your stories, your work that you're developing in the world. And I feel so grateful to have been able to share this space with you today. And I know that our audience is also going to be so nourished and inspired by this conversation. And for everyone who tuned in, thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for our next set of interviews. Be well, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Gigi.